Hey, what's up, YouTube? You're with gothatfunk, and this is a video response to my friend Kate, aka Bionic Dance, and her recent videos discussing the relative merits between Star Trek and Star Wars. I'm going to be attaching a video to this one as a response, which is a discussion I had with my son last night on this subject. I've put it on my spares channel. If you decide to watch the video, great, but please don't bother subscribing to my spares channel. It is what it says on the tin. It's a spares channel. It's where I put extra stuff that I don't want to bore subscribers with. So, yeah, but it's about 12, 13 minutes long, something like that. And, it's playful banter between me and my son discussing an issue which is dear to both of our hearts, that being Star Trek and Star Wars. Now, Falcon and I, my son and I, we watch Star Trek a hell of a lot. Voyager in particular, and I'm a huge fan of Star Trek Voyager. It's without a doubt my personal favorite of all the Star Trek series, although having said that, you really can't beat the original series of Star Trek, but it is what it is, and for the time it was out, it was cool for various different reasons that none of the later Star Treks could ever be cool for. And I'll discuss that in a minute. But Kate, you said in your video that you think that Star Wars is just generally cooler because Star Wars has single-man fighters in it. And you rightly, in my opinion, deplore the gap of a single-man fighter in the Star Trek universe. And it only makes logical sense that a highly maneuverable single man, so you don't lose very many people in the process, single man fighters, that just makes sense. The only reason it wouldn't make sense, I suppose, is the energy requirement to fly in space at any kind of speed was greater than could be contained in a small craft. That's possible, but you know what? Being science fiction, you don't have to think about shit like that. Put some cool looking engines on it, some cool looking guns, and give it a decent design, and I'll go with it. You know, to watch anything science fiction, you have to completely suspend disbelief. So yeah, I agree with you, Kate. Star Trek is noticeably lacking any sort of single-man fighter craft or single-man craft of almost any kind. I mean, the shuttlecraft doesn't really count. And in the Voyager episode Future's End, there's a time ship that comes back from the 29th century, which was a single-man craft, but that's primary design wasn't as a fighter. And you don't really get a good look at the ship anyway, so I can't even really count that myself. So Kate, while I agree with you that the fighters are one of the cooler things about Star Wars over Star Trek, I think that in general, Star Wars outcools Star Trek on every fucking level. The special effects are streets ahead. The different kinds of aliens and the amount of aliens, miles and miles and miles ahead of Star Trek. I mean, hell, in Star Trek, especially in Star Trek The Next Generation and the early two seasons of Voyager and all of Deep Space Nine, whoever was in charge of the alien makeup design should be taken up and fucking tickled with a feather until they wet themselves. Because basically it seemed to be toward the end of Next Gen and all of Deep Space Nine and the beginning years of Star Trek Voyager, all you really had to do to be an alien on Star Trek was to have some kind of fucked up forehead that was different than the other aliens' fucked up foreheads. And that was it. You know, no scales or feathers or multiple fucking limbs or fucking multiple eyes or any of this kind of crap like you got going on in Star Wars. No. Just some stupid dude in a blatantly obvious costume. So yeah, I think the aliens in Star Wars are miles ahead of Star Trek. The spaceships, not just the fighters, but the spaceships, the variety of spaceships, the designs of the spaceships in Star Wars pretty much can't be beat. Not by any science fiction TV show. Not by miles. I think the spaceships on Babylon 5, for example, were pretty cool. But just in terms of variety and design, Star Wars just completely blows it away. Where Star Wars kind of fails for me as compared to Star Trek is its devotion to religion. You know, the Jedi Order is, there's no two ways about it, a religion. Okay, so it's not a deistic religion or a theistic religion, but that doesn't matter. It's got all the dogma of religion. And Star Trek, on the other hand, is refreshingly devoid of religion. Um, they do take some liberties with the nature of consciousness, and non-corporeal life forms and stuff like that exist in Star Trek, which is kind of hard to wrap your head around. But nevertheless, they actually eschew um, religion, and uh, they trump the scientific method, and they trump evolution as a natural process that created all life in the universe. They trump the Big Bang Theory, etc., etc. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was well known for his atheism, and I think that's pretty cool. Where Star Trek, I think, excels and Star Wars, uh, I wouldn't say fails, but I mean, it's not really the goal of Star Wars, but Star Trek excels at letting us explore humanity for what it actually is now, here on Earth. And there are some really great episodes, in particular in the original series of Star Trek, but also in the Next Generation. There are episodes which really, I'm sorry, if you watch those episodes, they fucking make you think, make you re-examine some of your previously held beliefs. And the same could be said for some episodes of Star Trek Voyager. There's some brilliant ones in Star Trek Voyager which really throw up some ethical dilemmas to which there's no right or wrong answer. Um, I'm thinking, for example, in Voyager of the episode called Tuvix, where Tuvok and Neelix get merged into a single being. And at first, they're all sort of consumed with this notion they have to try to, reestablish Tuvok and Neelix. But after it seems impossible, then this new character, Tuvix, decides to become part of the crew. And then when they finally figure out how to separate him into the two people again, he says, "Well, I don't want to die." Fucking brilliant episode. Great episode. Um, there's other episodes of Next Generation, which I think are some of the best TV shows, single episodes around. There's an episode which is kind of cheesy, in early Next Gen, called Justice, where young Wesley Crusher is down on a planet, and he accidentally breaks the law by stepping on some grass, and he obviously didn't know that that was illegal. And the thing about this planet is that there's an artificial intelligence in orbit which enforces the law without any prejudice whatsoever and without any exceptions. And the penalty for any transgression of the law is the death penalty. A really, really good episode. That's Star Trek Next Generation Justice. You should definitely watch it, especially people who are pro or anti capital punishment, because it does make some really interesting points about the value of capital punishment. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about Star Trek. I fucking love Star Trek. Star Trek, the original series, I want to talk a little bit about that because no subsequent series of Star Trek could ever do some of the things they did in the original series, and that's because it was the first one. You can only lose your virginity once. And with Star Trek, the original series, you had this whole, the whole galaxy is a mystery. We didn't really know what we were going to find out there in terms of other life forms and whatever. So there was a sense of adventure and discovery in the original series that they tried to recapture a little bit in Star Trek TNG in the beginning. And then again, they tried to recapture that sense of wonder in Star Trek Voyager in the beginning. But inevitably, the way Hollywood seems to work is it all ends up becoming about the characters and in later series of Star Trek, and less so about the actual story. Whereas in Star Trek, the original series, I mean, yes, we are allowed to get into the characters a little bit and to invest ourselves a little bit in the characters' personalities and whatever, but really it's about the adventures they get into and the stories that get told. And I think, yes, the third season of the original series has quite a few episodes that leave much to be desired. However, I think Star Trek the original series was fantastic, not only for its time, but in general. And Kate, you've got an issue with William Shatner. And I say this in my discussion with Falcon, which is attached below, but I don't really have a problem with Bill Shatner myself personally as an actor. But even allowing for personal dissatisfaction with William Shatner, I'm sorry, fucking Captain Kirk, cool as fuck, especially in the TV show. Okay, I mean you can think Captain Kirk in the movies, the Star Trek movies, is a bit sort of, well, uh, trying very hard not to become a grumpy old man and sort of failing miserably, and he swims in his own ego and all that kind of crap. But hey, it's fiction, right? It's not real. And Shatner's only reading the lines they gave him. That's my attitude about it. Anyway, so yeah, Star Wars infinitely cooler than Star Trek. Star Trek infinitely more relevant and interesting than Star Wars in terms of humanity. Just my 2 cents. Thank you all for watching this video, and if you're interested in a conversation I had with my son on the same subject, click it. It's down below. Thanks for watching. Peace.